So friends, let us now learn some important points about rhabdomyosarcoma. This rhabdomyosarcoma is the most common type of pediatric tumor, pediatric soft tissue tumor which is present. It is also the most common site of rhabdomyosarcoma. If you see, it is head and neck or parameningeal, or followed by extremity, followed by genitourinary tract, followed by trunk. Then most common histological type of rhabdomyosarcoma is embryonal type of rhabdomyosarcoma. This is in children or overall. Then most common histological type in adults, if you see, it is pleomorphic variant is most common in adults. Then the diagnosis is mainly based on a cell which is called as rhabdomyoblast tadpole cells. We have rhabdomyoblast tadpole cell, or also called as trap cell, which is very important in diagnosis. Then in rhabdomyosarcoma we have two variants. One, we have spindle cell variant is present. Second, there is sarcoma botryoides is seen. Right. Next, if you see the clinical features, in the clinical features most common presentation is mass is seen, and it is seen in first peak. It is actually rhabdomyosarcoma has bimodal distribution, where the first peak is seen in 2 to 5 years of age, whereas second peak is seen in 15 to 19 years of age. Then the most common route of spread of rhabdomyosarcoma is hematogenous, whereas most common site of metastasis is lungs. Then investigation of choice of rhabdomyosarcoma is same as that of normal soft tissue sarcoma, that is true cut biopsy or core cut biopsy can be done. Then investigation of choice for extent of the disease is MRI. Then if we see treatment, in the treatment we can do surgery, and wide local excision can be done for surgery. In the surgery, if you see, if there is any unresectable tumor, then we can do neoadjuvant chemotherapy is done. If there is positive margins are present after surgery, then we will have to give post operative radiotherapy can be given. Then if we see the prognosis, in the prognosis it depends upon the variant. If it is embryonic type of rhabdomyosarcoma, then it is good prognosis. But if it is alveolar type of rhabdomyosarcoma, it has unfavorable prognosis. Right. Now this prognosis also depends upon the sites. If you see the favorable sites of prognosis, if you see non-parameningeal head and necks, or if it is present in paratestis, that is around the testis, or it is present in orbit or vagina, in these areas it has good or favorable prognosis. Whereas unfavorable sites include extremity and parameningeal location. So this is about the rhabdomyosarcoma. Then after rhabdomyosarcoma, the next important thing here is we have one more tumor, that is soft tissue tumor, that is called as dermatofibrosarcoma protuberans. In dermatofibrosarcoma protuberans, this is actually a low grade sarcoma which will recur locally, and here this has good more recurrence, and this will rarely metastasize, and this dermatofibrosarcoma protuberans has radial extension of tumor into the subcutaneous tissue is seen. This is seen in dermis. This will mainly involve the dermis and subcutaneous tissue. Then the most common site of this dermatofibrosarcoma protuberans is trunk, followed by extremities, followed by head and neck. Then if you see the pathology, in the pathology, this is a tumor associated with the presence of satellite nodule, and this is associated with CD34 positive, and more than 75% of the patients have ring chromosome. And in this ring chromosome is mainly composed of 17 and 22nd portion. Then we have unpredictable radial extensions of the tumor. If this is the primary tumor, there is unpredictable radial extensions of the tumor are seen for longer distances from the primary nodule, and this is the main reason for increased recurrence after simple excision, because in simple excision you will just excise this part, and sometimes these areas might be left in the tissues, resulting in their recurrence. Then we have 2 to 4 centimeter circumferential margin can be used for after excision. Then if you see the clinical features, you will see presence of nodular cutaneous mass may be seen, and if you see the pattern of growth in dermatofibrosarcoma protuberance is slow and persistent, and it enlarges over many years slowly. And investigation of choice is we can do incisional biopsy is done. Then if we do surgery, in the surgery we should do a wide local excision with 2 to 4 centimeters margin should be used, and we should remove the underlying fascia. Always remove the underlying fascia. First time treatment for advanced, and first time after treatment of if this is normal treatment, if the disease is advanced, if the disease is advanced and if it is unresectable, then the first line treatment is you should give neoadjuvant chemotherapy with imatinib. Okay, if you see this imatinib, I'll write here. This imatinib is given in 3 conditions. This is drug of choice for gastrointestinal stromal tumor, CML, that is chronic myeloid leukemia, and it is also given in dermatofibrosarcoma protuberance if there is advanced and unresectable tumor. So this is about the dermatofibromyosarcoma protuberance. Then after this, the next important thing is about we will learn some important points about tumor lysis syndrome. This is a syndrome which is caused by the destruction of neoplastic cells. So whenever there is large neoplastic cells gets destroyed, then this will cause this syndrome. This is most commonly associated with tumors. In the tumors, it is associated with Burkitt's lymphoma most commonly, followed by it is also associated with acute lymphocytic leukemias, and it is also associated with chronic leukemia, right? Next, if we see next important thing, so this is also associated with chronic lymphoma also. It is also associated with high grade lymphoma also. So if we see the pathophysiology, whenever there is destruction of these malignant cells have large amount of nucleic acid. So these nucleic acids are also will also get destroyed, thus resulting in formation of hyperuricemia due to increased uric acid. So how does this hyperuricemia occur? All the nucleotides which are present in the tumor cells gets converted to hypoxanthine, and this hypoxanthine will form xanthin, which will finally form uric acid, leading to hyperuricemia. Then here there is also, you will also see release of the potassium which is present in the cell is released, thus resulting in hyperkalemia and arrhythmias. Even the phosphorus which is present, phosphate which is present in the cells is also released, causing hyperphosphatemia. This phosphate will combine with calcium to form calcium phosphate, and this will deposit in the renal tubules, causing renal failure. And this calcium, because it is getting used, it will result in hypocalcemia. And because the oxidative metabolism which is normally present, this is deranged, this will result in lactic acidosis. So overall, the electrolyte disturbances that are seen in tumor lysis syndrome include hyperuricemia, hyperkalemia, hyperphosphatemia, hypokalemia, and lactic acidosis. So the management of this condition includes, we will have to give aggressive hydration to the patient, and sodium bicarbonate can be given, which causes lactic acidosis. We can give the patient allopurinol, which will increase the uric acid, which will block the conversion. So what does this allopurinol do? This will block the conversion of hypoxanthine to xanthine, and thus uric acid is blocked. Then we can also give a recombinant uric oxidase enzyme, which is RAS uricase, which will degrade the uric acid enzymatically. And we can also do hemodialysis, especially this is done for renal failure, right? Next, so this is about the tumor lysis syndrome. One more important disease which is related to tumors is, we have hypercalcemia of malignancy. There is a disorder which is called as hypercalcemia of malignancy. So if you see in hypercalcemia of malignancy, here the main factor here is increased release of calcium from the bone is the important thing, and here there is increased calcium reabsorption also occurs in the from DCT. So because of increased release of calcium and increased calcium reabsorption from DCT, why do both these occur? This is because of increased parathermone releasing peptide secretion. There is increased parathermone releasing peptide secretion, which will lead to increased release of calcium and also increased reabsorption of calcium from DCT. So the mainstay of treatment here is, you will have to do rehydration with normal saline should be done with furosemide, and you should give furosemide. This furosemide will cause diuresis. Okay, then you, because here there is increased calcium levels are seen in the blood, you will have to give drugs which will lower the calcium levels, like we can give bisphosphonates can be given, or calcitonin, bisphosphonates, calcitonin, or plicamycin, or we can give gallium nitrate. So all these can be given, and glucocorticoids can also be given to the patient. Okay, so this is about the hypercalcemia of malignancy. Then after the so this is about hypercalcemia of malignancy. Thank you for watching.